Guys, Cat Blam here, long time no see. It's been a hot minute since my last upload. Gonna try something a little bit different here. So what we got for you today is a DK set tier list. And my thoughts on some of the most prominent sets I like on DK. So just starting things off, we're gonna start simple here with the good old Pyrobrand. You know this one got nerfed, but there are certain interactions that make it incredibly overpowered, specifically when using the set Malakath, because it increases the damage by 15%. The set cannot crit, so Malakath is just perfect for it, because you're not playing a crit build anyways. So yeah, Firebrand, S tier. Very, very good set. You're gonna see, if you go to Stormhaven, you're gonna run into like a million Pyrobrands. And, well, the rest of the sets are really big here. And we got little old Pyrobrand here. But here we got Daedric Trickery, good old staple of some good old DK. Straight into the S tier. Why this one is S tier? It just gives you so many buffs that you need. Like Major Heroism. Major Heroism fuels your ultimate regeneration, which also fuels your recovery because of the Battle Roar passive, restoring your resources on use of ultimate. So that's like the most useful thing out of Trickery. And on some of the builds I played, the Major Expedition is also really, really nice. But everything else is good too. Major Vitality, Major Bending, Major Protection, very strong. 10% damage mitigation. Ooh. This one has Fallen from Grace, Perfected Stinging Slashes, also known as Master Dual Wield. Into the C tier. Not very good. Needs way too much weapon damage to get its full potential. At that point, it's not really worth it, considering you just have other options. Which leads us into another option that is better, which is the BRP Dual Wield. Put that in A tier. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it's very strong. It gives you 6% more damage dealt and 6% damage mitigation on top of the skill itself, giving you Major Expedition and what's it called? Major Evasion, which is 20% less damage taken from AoEs, which is pretty much every ultimate. So very strong. It's very stat dense once you consider the skill and the buffs from this. Merciless Charge, which is, I believe, the Maelstrom 2H. Which this one has its uses. I want to put it... So considering what it'd be used for, I think it might be A tier. Because you'd only use this in dueling. You would not use this outside of that. You wouldn't use it for 1vx or even group play. So, in the realm of dueling, is it A tier? Not sure. It's either B or A. Kin Marcher's Cruelty. Got ourselves another S tier set. Which Kin Marcher's Cruelty, just like Trickery, is a random buff, debuff, whatever. Which Trickery's buffs, Kin Marcher's debuffs. What you get out of this is Major Defile, very strong right now because Defile affects shields finally. I think that was something from an update or two ago. We got Major Vulnerability, which is 10% damage taken, which is like more than Clever Alchemist in terms of damage. So incredibly good. And then Major Cowardice, that decreases people's weapon and spell damage by 430, which decreases their damage, which makes you tankier. It also reduces their healing. That's really cool. And then Major Maim, I think it makes people deal 10% less damage to you, so between Trigger and Kin Marchers you can actually get a lot of damage mitigation. Very good synergies. Point Blank Snipe. Oh boy. I tested this one. I didn't really like it. It had a cool combo to it and I like the concept, but in practice it just doesn't really work. And that's about all I can say about it. Another one that's really slept on though, Frenzied Momentum. I'm actually going to put Merciless Charge in B tier. It's because it only has one application. Frenzied Momentum I found really good in 1v1s and 1vx, because you can medium weave into a whip and just get a crazy amount of damage. So I really like Frenzied Mode. Here we got some of our mythics. So Death Dealer's Feet. I really like Death Dealers, but I don't think it's quite S tier. But I do run it on a lot of my builds these days. For Death Dealer's Feet, A tier, gives you tons of health, tons of mag, tons of stam. It makes playing just really comfortable. Gives you a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing because of the max stats. Makes you a little bit tankier. Just overall, really good. Like, you can't go wrong with it. Ring of the Pale Order. I think that's a B tier. It can be very strong, especially if you stack it with Burning Embers and Blood Craze. With Ash Cloud even. You can actually get a lot of like healing on DK by just stacking a whole bunch of healing over times like that. But overall, I don't think Pale Order is doing that much because you could stack all those heal over times without Pale Order. Now we have Markin, Ring of Majesty. I used to like this one. I see people still make builds with it and stuff, but honestly, C tier? Maybe even D tier? I don't know, it's kinda wasted. It's not that good. It is just not that good because you get the same damage and healing as Death Dealer's Feet. So, Death Dealer's Feet, you get more max resources, so things are your sustain's gonna be better, and you're gonna have more HP, so you don't get ganked as hard. Stuff like that. I think Death Dealer's Feet is just a straight upgrade from Markin. No reason to use Markin at all. Mythic's Band of Brutality. A lot of people sleep on this one. I don't see a lot of people talking about this one outside of Stormhaven. This is incredible. This is what I'm currently using. Mythic's Band of Brutality. It is really strong, especially if you use it with a set like Kin Marchers, because Kin Marchers plus Malakaths, you get Major Vuln, you're doing like 25% more damage. It is crazy. And really, I think the main thing with Malakath is that it buffs the shit out of your dots. All your dots are just gonna hit really stinking hard. It's gonna make your non-crit leaps hit really hard. Whip is kinda eh. I think something like Seducers affects Whip a little better. Sea Serpent's Coil. I think B tier. It's okay in dueling. It's just okay in dueling, that's about it. Because when you're dueling, with how much damage some of those builds have, you're not really gonna proc this very often. You're not gonna reach full HP. It's either you kill or be killed. Only time Sea Serpents is gonna be really strong is if your opponent just isn't very good. They don't have a lot of damage. I tested it, it's not very good. Just use Malakaths. You get pretty much the same amount of damage as Sea Serpents, but without the proc condition. Satan the Seducer for 1vx. I think this is incredible. It makes everything hit really hard. Major Berserk, amazing buff to have. Major Courage, amazing buff to have. Oh, onto the Major Berserk again. The scaling on Major Berserk is insane on Leap. You'll leap people really hard. But is it S tier? I might put it in S tier. Because I use it over pretty much every other mythic except Malakath. And sometimes when I'm not using Malakath, I'll either be using Death Dealers if I want to be really tanky and I just want a resource stack. But if I'm wanting to go like pure damage, I'm going one of these. So maybe I keep it in S. Alloys. E tier. It's strong. It's really good on a high damage, like high weapon damage burst build. Which I used Badlorgs on my D-Swing DK actually. And that's where I hit my fattest leap ever, and it wasn't even on Take Flight. It was on Ferocious Leap, the one that does less damage but gives you a shield. I hit like a 17 or 18k leap on that, using Badlorgs. So I think Balorgs is strong, but it doesn't really play into the DK playstyle as well as I would like it to. Because with DK, you're trying to blow your ultimate as often as you can to sustain. And with Balorgs, it's more about you wanting to keep it. So with Balorgs, I usually like either Trickery with like Essence Thief, or just put on Wretched. But yeah, you have to like build around Balorgs a little better. Gerals. I'm gonna say S tier. No. I'll put in A tier. Very strong to duel with. Very strong for Xing because you just use your AoE dots on people. Like Noxious Breath, Engulfing Flames, Volatile Armor if you use that. I personally don't use Volatile Armor, but it's very strong. You can use it in group. Like, you can use it for everything. It's just really strong. Lord have mercy on your soul if you use it for Zerging. But that is between you and him. Bloodspawn? Adrenaline S. Bloodspawn also S. Actually, Bloodspawn is like S+. It plays perfectly into the DK playstyle. It makes you tankier, it gives you more stam recovery, and it gives you ultimate upon taking damage. While Trickery, you have to kind of fish for a heroism proc, you're always getting ult from spawn. Very consistent. DK staple, it's been that way for years, and that's not going to change. Mechanical Acuity, I think B tier. You can make a very strong burst build with it, but that's about all you can do with it. Is just make a strong burst build. It'll be good in group, it'll be good for Xing. But I find the downtime really annoying to play around. So I don't really like it that much personally. It's strong in the right hands. Like if y'all have seen Pelican's video on it, of course he's like an acuity god. Uses that on everything and just destroys everyone. I personally don't like it on DK though. Especially with the corrosive changes, because it's just really awkward not getting ultimate while in it. Then you kind of feel starved for resources by the end. Witch Knight's Defiance. Well, all this talking's making my throat dry. Witch Knight's Defiance. This one. Really slept on. People don't realize how good Witch Knights is, but this is like 700 plus weapon damage effectively. It is actually amazing. Very strong set, very strong set. This is actually what I used with my Balorgs build, that I was leaping people for 17k. Absolutely amazing. I love it. I would recommend trying it. I don't think it's the best set ever, but if you just want raw unmitigated damage, Witch Knights is amazing. Dragon's Appetite. I think it's a B tier. You have to slot a bleed skill. Like, it's okay, I guess. If you're like, it's good if you're like dueling and use like Vate Ice. Where you're like, you breach and stuff. And of course the tether to stack up your thing. But overall, I don't think Dragon's Appetite is the best set for doing that. Ancient Dragon Guard. I think I'll also put in B tier. No. Yeah, I'll put in C tier. Because it's a good bit of like damage. You get a little bit of health and you get a little bit of armor. It's definitely like a decent set stat wise. It's a decent stat set. But other than that, it's just, it doesn't really stand out. It doesn't do anything special to set it above anything. I think there's better just pure damage stat sets. Way of Fire. S tier. Incredible set. You're just gonna obliterate people. I think it's a better set to use than Dragon's Appetite whenever you run like Blood Craze or something. I'd rather just have the Way of Fire proc than the slightly increased damage from Appetite. Of course, Appetite gives you a heal, but you don't have very high max resources on DK most of the time, so it's just kind of wasted. Because you're only going to get that heal for like 3 or 4k. If that. Rogerkin? Sorry about that. Headset turned off because I didn't have any sound playing through it. But yeah, Joggerkin. This synergizes with all your funny dot builds, your Vatterstrand builds, your Malakath. It scales all your dots way up. You don't have to run a specific bleed skill for it to get the damage from it, and it's even more damage than even Dragon's Appetite. Like, just don't run Dragon's Appetite, just run Joggerkin if you can. I sometimes run Dragon's Appetite just because I don't have Joggerkin, but I understand that Joggerkin is just the better version of it. And there's just no reason to use Dragon's Appetite with this in the game. Essence Thief. You can get some really good damage stacking off Essence Thief, especially if you run Kin Markers with Essence Thief. That's 20% more damage. Add a Malakath in there, that's what, 35% more damage. So you can really just stack damage percentages with Essence Thief. You can go in a lot of builds. You can front bar it, you can back bar it. Amazing. But it does have the downside of you having to chase the little green ball, and that gets very annoying. I understand that people don't like that. Like, it's very strong for what it is, but if I'm Xing, I don't really want to chase that ball that often. And dueling, very strong, but other than that, I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, I'm talking about all the downsides, but it's very strong. It's a very strong set. It's stam regen, and you get 10% more damage. Pretty much 100% uptime, especially in a 1v1. Oak Fathers. I run this a lot. I love it a lot, but I'm not sure if it's the best. I feel like I had better luck using Way of Fire than Oak Fathers. Even though I really like Oak Fathers. I X a lot with Oak Fathers, but I've gotten better X's with Way of Fire, I believe. And it just synergizes with so many other things. But yeah. Oak Fathers probably... I think Oak Fathers might be better than Witch Knight because the pin you get off of it. But Witch Knight, you get so much more weapon damage too. It's a hard one. Because with Witch Knight you get like almost 350 more weapon damage if you have a poison on the target. And both of these are really strong. I'd say they're about even. I think they're about even, honestly. People sleep on Witch Knight. I fuck with Witch Knight. Rallying Cry. I like running it in group. I sometimes like running it in dueling as like a back bar set in duels. But I don't think it's the strongest set, but I do understand that it's really good for crit resistance, which is really nice. But for damage it's not the strongest, but it's a good balance. I think it's a very balanced set. Oh, we got another Kin Marchers, which we already rated in S tier. So we got a lot of S and A tiers. And why there's a lot of S and A tiers because I only wanted to really list like the more important sets. But we do still got our Bs, we got a couple Cs, and our 1 D tier. Yeah. Those are my thoughts on all these DK sets that I shared with y'all. Feel free to let me know if y'all need help like making a build with one of these. Like, just put in the comments if like any of these sets like tickles your fancy. You would like to see me maybe not make a build video on it, but maybe just share information on how to build around it. Anyways, that's about it. See ya. Okay, I wanted to add a couple more things. So, Mars Bomb, I think I'm gonna put in B tier. It's still decent, but the better option right now is Weird Tree. This works on a 15-second cooldown, what Mars Bomb used to be. But Weird Tree doesn't have the heal that Mars has. I think Mars has a little bit better, like 2, 3, 4 pieces. But overall, I think Weird Tree's just a better Mars Bomb. Burning Spell Weave, we're just gonna put this in A tier, under Witch Knight. It's pretty much the same thing. Witch Knight, Burning Spell Weave, Oak Father, they're just all just stat sets. I think they all belong in E tier, they're all very strong. Wrath of the Elements, which is Vanisher and Ice Staff. This one belongs in S tier. You'll see it on dueling builds, you'll see it on Xing builds, you'll see it on a lot of builds. You just see these little beams flying across Cyrodiil all day. Yeah, that's about it.